Hi, I'm Elroy Gonsalves and I head operations for Learners Conclave Private Limited, an organization that works for the learning and earning of trainers. Today I'm going to take you through a very special journey. We're going to have a quick chat with a member of Learners Conclave, no doubt. But what makes him special is that he is also an author of a mystery, a murder mystery for all you lovers of the Alfred Hitchcock or maybe Sherlock Holmes or a Nancy Drew for that matter. So before we go ahead and we talk about the book and his journey of writing, let me give you a kind of brief about who this gentleman is. So first of all, his corporate career or life is purely involved with the Reserve Bank of India. So he's a general manager with the Reserve Bank of India. He is an international commentator on cricket. He does voiceovers. He is a coach and also a behavioral trainer. And amidst all of this, he somehow managed to write. All right, he took his passion out onto a pen and paper, and that's how he created his very own murder mystery right under your nose. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to learn about his life, his journey, and what really got him excited about writing this book. So let me take you through this interview and let's get to know more about our speaker, Mr. R. Giridharan.
Mr. Giridharan, very warm welcome to this chat show with Elroy Gonsalves.
Thank you, Elroy. A pleasure being with you.
All right. So before we go ahead, can we show our audience, our viewers, a copy of the book?
Yes. Can you see it?
Oh, if you could straighten it, it's horizontal if you can. Okay, right under your nose. All right, this is the book, and this is a copy that you could get for yourselves. It's launched on Amazon. It was launched on 10th November 2020. Easily available. If you love murder mysteries and writing on the whole, then you should get yourself a copy of Right Under Your Nose. You can just type the title or by R. Giridharan. You're bound to get it. You're going to love it. It's available on Kindle as well as hard copy. So, Mr. Giridharan, all right, thank you. So now this is the first question that goes out to you. What really triggered the writer in you? I mean, what made you think of writing a book?
There are two, three things, pet ideas which I have in my mind, and which you could say.
The camera is getting blocked.
Sir. Okay, yeah. There are two, three pet ideas that I have in my mind. One is I have always felt that technology cannot substitute for imagination. Mm-hmm. These days, everyone goes in for high tech, but then they forget that they are basically low on imagination. So my concept is great imagination can trump high technology. You don't need technology, you don't need money. What you need is imagination. The second thing that I always have in my mind is that probably it's maybe taken from Alchemist itself, that you go around the world, but the answer lies very close to you, probably right under your nose. That's where we don't look. What is there right under the nose is something you're not able to look. Your eyes are perennially ahead, maybe above, maybe sideways, but not right under your nose, which is where the answers lie. So to kind of, and the third reason why I wanted to do was I often used to hear, you don't have Indian detective stories of the kind that Sherlock Holmes or Agatha Christie is. Nobody can guess how the murder happened. So somewhere this is an attempt, humble attempt, to break that stereotype as well. I believe this is a howdunit and a whodunit, which will make the reader say, oh, could it happen this way? So these are probably the reasons why I started writing the book.
Wow. So, so tell me one thing. I mean, of course, with your corporate life, I'm sure you've been having a really busy schedule. How did you manage to write a book in the midst of all this chaos and hectic lifestyle of yours?
I'll now tell you the secret of that. It so happened that in 2016, I was transferred from Jaipur to Mumbai. My daughter was in her class 9th. So my family, that is my wife and daughter, stayed back in Jaipur.
Mhm.
I was alone in Mumbai. And somehow I felt very lonely. I was not able to sleep properly at night. The schedules became erratic. The discipline that the wife brings into you was somewhat lacking. Then I had to think a way out. I said, what do I do then? Okay, let me do a creative pursuit. For long, I have had these pet themes of myself. Then I thought, let me have a shot at writing. So I began writing. And it took me nearly a year and a half, that entire period in which I was alone. I used to write every day. And I write by pen. I don't type. I cannot type. So I wrote by pen, got it typed by a colleague, and then edited it, re-typed it by the colleague, and that's how the manuscript was made. So I would write, but I wrote almost every day. That's what I did.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Yes,
if
Irfan.
I'm sure that you had the love for words through commentary, of course. So you have the entertaining element of commentary, which is more factual when it comes to cricket commentary. And here you have the very fictional element, which is suspense and a mystery that you've kind of created. Uh, do you think it's easy to juggle between a creative as well as a factual writer when it comes to communicating your message to the audience?
It is possible. What the method I adopt is, now, I adopt is first write a crazy thing. Write something very crazy, which will have no touch of realism. The first, and I write, as I told you, I write by hand. So I would write a chapter or
Mhm.
two, which would be completely crazy, anything that's coming in the mind. I would send it across to my good friend Mane Gaonkar, who would type it and send it back. Now, the second round would be when I would make it the fact check. The second round, I would wear the hat of a factual writer. So I did them twice over. That's how I did it. And the revision also would be like that. That one time get creative, get your creative juices flow. When your creative juices are flowing, don't bring the factual mind into play. When you're bringing the factual mind into play, let the creativity stay back. That's the tactic I adopted. And I suppose others can also, maybe they could have even an even
That's
better
your
tactic.
secret recipe.
Yeah, that's mine, but maybe somebody else could have even better.
All right. And is this your first book, or have you also written some other books which have just been buried under the years of your experience, and that's about it? You never really saw the daylight.
No, books, not per se, a number of articles here and there as a part of books,
Okay.
not a no book. This is my first book, but the more are there in the offing.
Okay. And any sequel?
Yes,
Any sequel coming up to?
yes. In fact, the sequel is almost more than half done. So
Wow.
that will be as much as a how done it and who done it as this one. The protagonist will be the same, so that's why I call it a sequel. But the antagonist, if you can call it the villain or the antagonist, are going to be
Mhm.
different. But in all the books that I make very powerful antagonists. So in both the cases, you'll have powerful antagonists. Apart from that, I also intend to write a book on anger management. That will be co-authored
Okay.
with a book on anger management. And then, of course, books on cricket are also there on the anvil. So quite a lot of writing plans now.
Wow. So it's like, I think, so is that going to come out in 21 or in 22 or something like that? When would readers really get to see this?
Either late 21 or somewhere in 22. Probably 22, because I think this book has to run its course a little, and then that's how. I
Wonderful.
think the publishing process also takes some time, so 22 probably.
So how does writing help you?
Writing helps me in many ways. Okay, first of all, I think any stress that you pick up at work, at relationship, And even on the street, you go and you travel in a local train in Mumbai and somebody bumps into you. Okay, at the station, somebody spits the pan at you. These are times when stress does come in. And these stresses, I have found that they play out in your mind. You take it out on someone else. So rather than doing that, if you write down, so that piece might be one of a little bit of an anger. There might be anger in the piece that you've written there, but then the anger is out of the system because you have written it. You can tear the piece that you have written because it might be full of nonsense, but it's a stress buster. I found writing a stress buster first of all. Then the second thing that I got from writing is, as you write, newer and newer ideas come to you. And then you want to check up on something. And then you go to check that up. Sometimes you can't check it on the net, you've got to go to the field. And when you go to the field to check up something, you discover a whole new world. You suddenly realize that I have lived 50 years of my life without knowing that such things exist. Then the third and the most important part is writing teaches you how to join the dots. And the fact that nothing is unimportant, because in a book, if you have left, even if a punctuation is wrong, you know that the book, there's some flaw in the book. So that teaches you not to underestimate anything. And writing is a team effort because you've got the editor, you've got the publisher, you've got the cover designer, you've got the marketing person. So it's basically a team effort. And last but not the least, it's basically the writer, the reader, who is your God.
Lovely. So anything that, any surprising element or something that you actually learned while creating this book, something that has struck your imagination or something about the whole experience?
Lots, because as I told you, what happened while I was writing this book, I did a lot of field work in this. So I used to visit the morgues. I used to visit the morgues to see how the dead bodies are kept there because this is a murder mystery. So one has got to see how the dead bodies are numbered and how the forensics take place. There I saw a person suffering from a certain disease. Then I asked the forensics expert over there, but what is this disease and why is this man's, why does he look like this? Then he told me about it. Then I went and met a specialist on that disease. And he told me something more. Then out of the blue, I suddenly got an idea of how we could correlate it to a murder. So that was a surprising element. Second, I went to meet a snake charmer. I stayed with the snake charmer. I not exactly stayed overnight, but I would spend the day with him. The snake charmer taught me how snakes are trained, how snake venom is milked. So I know India is supposedly a country of snake charmers, but I don't think hardly anyone really knows what the snake charmers do and how they train and what they do there. So I had a first-hand experience of saying, I met a doctor there, a witch doctor kind of a person, a native doctor. He told me something amazing, which later I got it checked by a lot of specialist doctors, and they said something very amazing, which also is a part of the murder mystery here, because it were two amazing things I learned as a part of writing the book. So I won't tell you what they are, you will know when you read it. But
Hold
really
on to that
amazing.
surprise.
Yeah, it's amazing. Unbelievable, as I say, what I learned during those two visits.
So I guess it's the trainer within you that actually got it out, that get into the depth of it till you actually get that kind of gold out of the rock. Wow.
Probably, Elroy, that's what you're doing now also. You also are trying to dig and get out all the secrets. So probably all of us trainers want to do that. I can see you do it right now.
Right. And so are you a reader too, or do you only
Yes.
love expressing yourself?
No. Both ways. Both ways. I love reading as well.
All right. So what kind of material really ticks off your creative element?
Uh, well, I read a lot, of course, for as a trainer and HR trainer. I do read books on emotional intelligence and coaching and all. I do read that. And somewhere, and then I read of murder mysteries, obviously, because that's the thing that I'm writing. I read books, humorous books like Tintin. That also I love reading them. I read a lot of self-help books. And I find, as far as creativity is concerned, probably everything has a contributor. Let me tell you one thing, that even this conversation would be some sort of a contributor, because see, when you write a book, you are narrating a lot of things. There are a lot of scenes that you write. So a YouTube conversation of the kind that we are having now can also be a part of the book. And the fact that the connectivity didn't come immediately, or the connectivity went off in between, and somebody saying that the bandwidth isn't there, even that conversation becomes and makes it as real as possible. So creativity is there everywhere.
Okay. So according to you, in your experience of writing, what are the elements that go into making a good story?
Okay. Uh, Whichever, I mean, you can write anything. It can be romance, it can be murder mystery, it can be any kind of story. It can be entirely a family relationship. That doesn't matter what you're writing about. But I think what should matter is you need to have some strong characters. We need to have strong characters, and a strong negative character is also required. We need very strong protagonists, maybe more than one, and we need a very strong negative character, because the stronger the negative character, the greater the spice in the story of the protagonist overcoming that negative character. And so, I mean, the strength could be anything. That person could be very rich, the person could be influential, the person could be very strong, the person could be very crafty, anything. But the thing is very difficult to get past that person. So the protagonist manages to do. That's the thing. Then that's one part of it. The second part of it would be that the odds should be against the protagonist. The protagonist should have a couple of victories earlier on, and after that, the hero or the heroine, whomsoever it is, should have a few setbacks. Then make a comeback, and at the end, it should be all or nothing. It should be an all or nothing situation where the main protagonist then takes a tremendous risk, either puts her life at stake or puts her career at stake, something like that, to achieve what is now he or she wants to achieve. So you're putting all or nothing at that stage. You know that, going for broke. That has to be there towards the end. And then the pacing of the story. The story should generally move forward with every chapter. There must be stages where you need to give the reader a rest. So that is when you fill in certain interesting things. So some conversation, etc. You fill in interesting conversation. You add some knowledge to the reader by filling in something which might not really relate to the story that much, but nevertheless keeps the reader interested. I mean, it allows the reader to rest mentally a little as he goes along ahead.
Wow.
If you have humor, great, though I don't consider it a necessary ingredient.
So what exactly, according to you, pulls an audience more? Is it humor, or is it a stronger emotion like maybe anger, or sorrow, or something like that? What do you think would be more appealing to the Indian masses?
I think for anybody, an emotional connect is what matters. It could be triangle in which you have two girls after one boy, two boys after one girl, whatever it may be. Who is the one who is going to be chosen? That could be one. So there has to be a central question in it. And the central question should evoke the emotions. It could be one, where, okay, who is going to get the property? To whom will the father bequeath the property? It could be that, but that's also a central question. What is he going to do? Will he go in for business, or will he join the family business, or is he going to set out on his own? That could be another question for anybody who is out there. So I think it's the central question that matters. What humor does is it makes that the narrative of the central question more enjoyable. I mean, you can enjoy side by side to knowing the central question. You get the humor also. I mean, it's just like a training session of yours, Elroy. I mean, not necessarily that you've got to be humorous. If you are, then good,
Hmm.
but not necessary. And in the one, only a small warning here, just because you're pursuing humor, don't get off the main track. That's something that I would try to warn any writer. That happens sometimes.
Hmm.
So that's just a
Yeah,
small
so
warning.
it just becomes a desperate attempt at pulling off something.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
which
So
might
I
not be
guess
necessary. Yeah, yes.
super guidelines for a kind of trainer. So so if you had to give maybe three pieces of advice to a budding trainer, what
Yeah.
would they be?
Well, the first thing I would tell a trainer is that try to know your training. I mean, try to know your trainee as a group. If you can know if you can know them individually, even better. But at least got to know them as a group and empathize with them, because often and if it's a heterogeneous group, if what we are dealing with is a heterogeneous group, then you will probably have to cater to all of them. Some of them might be experts, some of them might be okay, some of them might be total novices.
Novice. Mhm.
Yeah, novice. So you have to cater to all three. So you must be able to divide your content, and the not only should the time be for each given to each three or each of the three, it should also be constructed in such a manner. So the content construction itself should be in such a manner that it is catering to all of them. And the second I would say is try to be interactive as much as possible, so that the trainees are a part of the training process. I mean, through questions or through case studies or whatever it may be. And nowadays, of course, these videos are a good way of teaching. So you can show them a video and then bring the concept. Like this, something I do a great deal. I show them videos, and then you can teach them, relate them to the concepts of communication, emotional intelligence, or anything. So that becomes the participation levels become much higher when we do all of that. And you can show us clippings from sports events as well. Show them. And if you personally do anything, like some people are good at art, some people are good at singing, maybe they too should be used in the training sessions. I mean, you're teaching somebody how to speak, but just sing a song and then tell them, can you note the manner in which the voice is going up and down, the pitch, the tone, the volume? Are you able to distinguish? Could you see how difficult it is to take the pitch up and then bring it down, or raise it when it's already high? Maybe a singer can explain it even better. So if you're a good singer, I think you should use it. And I always envy the good singers, because I can't sing for to save my life. So I always tell some of my trainers who sing well that please use it, and believe me, it makes a great impact. I am left green-eyed when they do that.
All right. So those were three tips for trainers. What would you advise writers? All right. One is, should trainers become writers? Is that a good way that they can build their authority? That's so. Let's have your take on that. And if they really want to get into writing, then maybe it's some three pieces of advice that you could give budding writers.
Well, first, let me come to take the first question first. I think everyone should try to be a writer. Anyone who wants to share his, in fact, knowledge is meant to be shared. And I think knowledge redoubles when you share. So everyone has to be a writer. A good cook should write a recipe book. A good sports person should write a book on that sports pack. A good trainer certainly should write on the things on which and a trainer, has got two things that he can write on. He can write on his area of expertise.
Hmm.
Uh, Second, he can write on training itself, on which he is certainly an expert. He or she is certainly an expert. So you have got two canvases to write upon. So certainly writing is a way of sharing your experiences and bringing it to the fore. When you write, believe me, that is when you suddenly start organizing your thoughts very well. And it's an introspective exercise. We tell everyone to introspect, but trainers maybe have lesser chance at introspecting because they are busy all the time training others, looking at others. So you don't look around yourself. So when you write, when you sit down and write, that's when you're taking time off for yourself also. And you will suddenly wonder that, well, I'm saying this, I'm advocating this, but am I doing it? And you'll discover new things. Is this a better way? So a trainer certainly should write. And writing may not be these days, maybe even if you are coming out and doing an YouTube video of all your thoughts and ideas and everything, even that I call it semi-writing. Because there also the same process that goes in when you write, the same kind of thought processes go in when you're making a video. So I think it might be less time consuming than writing. So even this is a good exercise of trying and doing. But if you can write, the posterity will have it for you. So we owe it, I think, to the trainees. And the second thing, when you said for the aspiring writer, the first thing that every writer should know is that we don't get put off by criticism. Any person who is worth noticing will be criticized. So if the person is not noticed, she will not be criticized. If somebody criticizes your writing, then it means you're worth noticing. That is why they are noticing you and they're saying something. So don't let criticism put you off. I have heard a lot of people tell me I wrote an article and then the reviews were bad and then I decided I'll never again write. No, no, no.
Interesting, very interesting and true perspective, actually.
Yeah, so don't get put off by criticism. Because people, and especially in India, we have very strong views on a number of things. So you put across a point of view, there'll be at least any number of people who don't agree to that point of view, and they will launch even personal attacks on you. You should not get put off by any criticism. That is my first advice. The second advice is the contrary to the other end of the pole, that we should not be very possessive of what we have written. So every writer needs an editor. And the editor's tips or the editor's viewpoints are something which we should consider very carefully. You need not accept 100%, but consider the editor's views very carefully. And when I say editor, not necessarily a professional editor that you go to, but somebody else. It's a peer review kind of a thing. Let someone else read it. And that person will certainly have something to say. So that's something we should consider and not get possessive. Often if somebody says, drop this, when you spend a lot of time and invested emotion in writing something or putting something and you're told that, well, it's not making the kind of impact or it's actually retracting from the main thing. And let me share it with you. It happened with me because I desperately wanted to bring humor. And humor is not my forte. So it was detracting. And then I was told by somebody that, yeah, why don't you make it serious? But I think it's taking the merit off, it's taking the sheen off. So then I rewrote, and then it became really very much. But at that time I kept saying I tried so hard to make it humorous, and I copied this P.G. Woodhouse and all that, and I tried to make it humorous. But then nobody is laughing at the end of it. So the joke is on me. So that's the second advice that I will give. The third advice is that you have to be consistent. As I told you, I wrote every day. So in writing, you can't take breaks. You have to be consistent. So be at it. And if you have taken a break for whatsoever reason beyond your control, then it's a little difficult to get back into rhythm. So then don't leave it when you're just about to get into the rhythm. That also happens. Take a break for 10 days. It takes you 2-3 days to get back. So after 2 days, you suddenly get frustrated and say, no, I'm going to leave it now. I'm not able to write. No, it might just come on the third day. It might come back. So be at it.
Mhm.
That be the third advice. And the fourth is do the field work. You will enjoy and you will discover a new world as I did.
Super. So now a very interesting part, Mr. Giridharan, if you can share with your audience, tell us something about the story, and at the end of it, as I mentioned, of course, it's available on Amazon. In case it's available anywhere else, if you're giving the author signed copy, you can let the audience know about that too. But before that, if you can tell us a little bit, give us a sneak peek into the story.
Okay. See, as I told you, that this is set in Nagpur. The locale is Nagpur because I wanted a typical Indian story. So, and I wanted a tier two city. You find a lot of focus on Delhi and Mumbai, or on idyllic surroundings, some village surrounding or some hill station, but the tier two cities are neglected. And so Nagpur is a city where I spent some time. So I decided to go in for Nagpur, and it's a cosmopolitan city. So I wanted people from all across the country to be as characters in that
Mhm.
novel. So that's why I choose Nagpur. The or most of the characters in the story, they are ordinary people like you and me. So you can identify with them very quickly. They face the same kind of frustrations. They go through the same trials. Typically in India, all the problems that we have, they go through the same problems that we have. You can relate to them very easily. Then the third thing which I will say is that I have given a very strong female protagonist as well. So there are two detectives, a lead male detective called Vijay and a lead female detective called Padmini. The Padmini starts off as a journalist, but then she is every bit as much a contributor to the eventual unraveling of the mystery as Vijay is. So it's a team in which the woman has as much as a contribution, and this kind of a combo is probably not seen in any detective one. I mean, you generally have one lead detective and his subordinate, Holmes and Watson, like that. So somebody is superior and the other person is secondary. It's not the case here. You have a man and a woman, and both of them are equal. So that's the different thing over here. Then I'll tell you the three mysteries which will intrigue you. One person is killed by two people at the same time. Two people have killed him at the same time.
Mhm.
So and that's the first mystery, the first part of it. That how did two people kill him at the same time? The second very intriguing question is the second murder happens like this: that two persons are celebrating. So they have a toast, they drink. There are at least 100 guests. In front of the 100 guests, the first scientist, he takes a drink. I mean, he drinks from the glass, hands over the glass to the next scientist. The second scientist also drinks from the same glass at the same time. One of them dies. Nothing happens to the other one. The forensic investigation does not reveal any poison whatsoever. So, how can it happen that people drinking at the same time from the same glass, the same thing, and no poison, and yet one dies, the other doesn't? That's the second part of the mystery. I mean, second murder. Third murder is a person enters the hotel room. So, within 5 minutes of entering the hotel room, he is found dead. No one could have entered that hotel room. So he's poisoned. This time it's clear that he has been poisoned by cyanide. But how did he get the cyanide inside? Because no one went and there is nothing that he consumed. So how did the cyanide get into him? That is the third murder. And the murderer or the antagonist is always two steps ahead. The moment the protagonist gets some clue, the antagonist goes ahead and destroys the remaining evidence that can come. So it's a real cat and mouse game. The thing that the antagonist is not able to neutralize, and what the protagonist who have been searching around the world for, finally they get it right under the nose. So that's why that's the title, Right Under Your Nose.
Wow.
That's
I
about the
mean,
book.
that really seems exciting. 4 murder mysteries right under your nose. I'm
Yeah.
sure the audiences are going to love it. And all the very best for the first book. And of course, eagerly waiting for the sequel too. So, Mr. Giridharan, I think so. This was a wonderful chat session where I'm sure our audiences really got to know a lot that went into writing this book. I mean, it's all about the journey, as I understand it. And I guess if you can enjoy and appreciate the journey, the destination also too is a fun kind of a feeling that, okay, I have reached. So I have crossed the mountain and I have reached my destination. So on that note,
No,
Mr.
Elroy,
Giridharan,
Elroy,
thank you very
no,
much for being
Elroy,
with me.
Elroy, I
Yes,
just want to add one couple of things here.
yes.
First of all, when you reach a mountain, you see another mountain and you want to go there. The second thing is, you had asked me that how do the readers get the book? The book is available on Amazon and
Uh-huh.
Flipkart, right? You can get it from Amazon and Flipkart. It's available on
Okay.
Kindle also. In case you want a signed copy, I am available. My contact number is there, I think, with you, since anybody is free to call me. And I'm not only for a signed copy, I'm available for any talk with them. So whomsoever is
Wow.
there in your circle, whomsoever watches this, the person can get my phone number, and the person is certainly always welcome to call me. I'm there to reach for them. I'm there for them.
I'm sure that they're going to love it. So thank you very much. I'm sure all will prefer to have a signed copy of this book. I'm sure I'm going to get a signed copy myself. And maybe if going ahead through, if Learners Conclave can also have a kind of book reading altogether, where you can have one of your mysteries solved out there through your own book reading, because you're also a wonderful voiceover artist along with the commentator. So I'm eager to experience that whole reading of that one mystery, at least if I could get that.
Anytime, Elroy.
That would be wonderful. So on
Anytime, Elroy.
yes. So thank you very much for being with me, and audiences, as Mr. Giridharan said, he's always available. If you would like to get a signed copy of the book, I'm sure he'd be more than willing to have it signed and couriered to you. So on that note, thank you very much. And very soon you will be having this video, of course, accessible on YouTube. That's one, if you want the video. And of course, if you are the typical audio types, then you would also have this recording on Spotify. You can get onto a Learners Conclave, and that's where you will have the same show in the audio format. So on that note, thank you very much. This is Elroy Gonsalves, along with Mr. Giridharan, the murder mystery writer of Right Under Your Nose, signing out.